Hey everybody, welcome to the Vaults. I am Jake, your host here at the Vaults of Yesteryear. Welcome in and hope everybody's having a good evening. Hope you had a great week. Uh, it's we've got a bit of a holiday weekend, at least for me here, with President's Day on Monday. So we've got a few things planned for tonight. We're gonna talk about our gaming plans and talk a little bit about a new rule set and solo system I found called Hostel. And then a little bit after that, we're going to jump into Talespire, which is some software on Steam that I've been using for some of my solo games, and it's kind of a VTT really, and will work pretty well for other games too. But we'll check that out a little bit later. But anyway, like I said, thank you and welcome in. And we we have our weekend, our gaming weekend is an off weekend, so nobody's playing this weekend. But I've got several things that I'm working on in the downtime. I'm trying to put together an online game, so been talking to prospective players and trying to get Foundry lined out on my system, and going through all the motions of getting that set up and working out the kinks and the bugs. And I'm going to get one of my players to help me with that on Sunday probably, and may do a little bit of solo gaming and kind of just see where it goes, and hopefully have a good time, even though the main group is not meeting up. So um, would love to hear what you guys are doing. We had some games last weekend, and I haven't spoke to you since last Friday. So we have we played a little D&D and a little bit of Mystara, and got into some trouble, and we took care of a lot of gnolls. I'll put it that way. A lot of gnolls went down, but anyway, that's kind of been the week in gaming for me. Um, you know, I was I was kind of just poking around drive through RPG earlier this week, and I came across this system called Hostel, and it is the best way I can describe it. It's a mixture of kind of Blade Runner and Aliens, and it uses like retro tech and things like that. But it's built off of the Traveler system, so that's what it runs off of. And I'm gonna show you some of that. In fact, I'll go ahead and bring that up. But let me. Yeah, so it's by Zoser Games, and they sell PDFs on drive-through, and then I think they do hardbacks through Lulu, and because I've seen some people that have a hard copy physical editions of the books. But this is actually this system has been out for a while. I think for maybe eight years or so, something like that. But really, I just now came across it, and it's very intriguing to me because they have a system here that is set up for group play. And so they have a settings book, as you see there, and then a separate rules book. It says here that Hostel is a gritty near future role-playing universe, not as optimistic and rosy as many sci-fi writers would have us believe. Space exploration is difficult and dangerous, and a thriving interstellar society made up of hundreds of populated planets never materialized. Instead, space is the preserve of big corporations that focus on extracting minerals, oil, and other raw materials from the extrasolar planets and moons to be shipped back to Earth in order to support the vast populations there. Games feature down to earth characters such as spacers, miners, explorers, and rover drivers, the folks who get things done out here in the lonely and hostile star systems of the American sector. So, this is you're playing the gritty the gritty space explorers and workers. It's like the meme of space truckers, right? So that's kind of the general theme of it, but it mixes in a lot of horror and other things that can go on, piracy, and the machinations of big corporations out in space, right? So uh, the books, and I'll show you some of the PDFs here in just a minute, but they're well done. It's got very much the retro tech theme, of the late 70s and early 80s, with big computers and monochrome screens and all that kind of exciting stuff, right? Um, they've got let's see. So I will just say that the rules book here, it has everything that you need to play the game, and then it splits it up into the settings book, with which is not just fluff. There are rules interspersed in there, especially for different home worlds and things like that, of where you come from. But like I said earlier, it uses the traveler system. In fact, it uses it has its own life path creation system. So that's one of my favorite things about Traveler, and they've imported that here to be able to use this kind of that kind of a system for the setting. So um, it really does a pretty good job of evoking the aliens theme, in my opinion, and this is well supported. So scrolling down here, I mean, here's all the supplements and stuff they make for it. And the best thing about this game that I've found so far is that it supports several different modes of play, and it actually gives you a complete procedural way to handle each one of those gaming styles. So, like for instance, here you'll see the Crew Expendable. So that's a campaign book for interstellar haulage and transport. So if you're playing space truckers, that's the supplement that you would specifically want to use for that. And each one of those gives you a ship to use with full deck plans and description of the ship, and then how to go about structuring your campaign and scenarios and missions for it, right? And then they have a Roughnecks, so interstellar mining and prospecting. They have the Zaibatsu, so which is where you're a group of corporate troubleshooters, and you go around taking care of whatever the big corp is that you're working for, right? Um, and then they have the Marine Handbook. So if you want to play colonial Marines going around and hitting things, and that's a way to do that. Uh, and then there's a couple of others. So there's one for colonies too. So if you're if you want to run a colony and deal with all yeah, there it is, colony builder. So you can have a whole campaign set around the dangers of running a colony in a like LV 426 or something like that. What do they call that? Hadley's Hope in Aliens. And so, and there's a couple of more, like there's some deep space exploration campaign system for that, and then it's also supported with equipment books and like alien guides as far as hostile aliens, and several other ship books and things like that. So it is pretty well supported, and I'm liking it so far. I'm liking it quite a bit. So I'll bring up. Here we go. So this is the main rule book here, and they've got it as you would typically imagine there at the characters and combat system. But they deal with this in pretty good detail. So if you like crunch, this is a crunch game for you. Now I know that Free League has the Alien RPG, the Evolved Edition, out using the Year Zero engine, and it's good. But if you want something with even more crunch, like especially if you're a fan of Traveler, this is the way to go. So uh, if you explore the characters section, you can see where it is. You have your typical Traveler statistics, your attributes there, and which is and you select careers. So and these careers are set up just like in Traveler. So they have skill tables that you check on. They've got whether you have mishaps during your career term, and you go through all the life path stages just like you would with a system with a regular Traveler game, right? And they have, an injuries chart and aging. The good thing is, I noticed in here is on the injuries, the worst you can get is nearly killed. So, unlike in Traveler, where you can die, and they, infamously die during character creation. Um, and then you got mustering out benefits and things like that that you would expect there. And then they go into combat. The combat system is very much like Traveler, but it's geared more to the retro tech, like I discussed earlier. Uh, and I'm not going to do a full review here. That's not really the intent of this. I just kind of wanted to showcase something that I've been looking at. The space travel has got a lot of good rules in here, and I'm just kind of showing you uh, the list of things. So they've got the flight planning where you can go through fueling, loading, and unloading of your cargo. Uh, Takeoff and flight. I mean, it can go into pretty excruciating detail. I mean, I kind of like that sort of thing, but it may not be for everybody. And you can use as little or as much as of this as you want. Hey, Mark says, like in Princess Bride, he was only mostly dead. Yeah, exactly. Hey, Mark, I was going to tell you and I forgot. If you wanted to jump in tonight, you're welcome to. You've got the link. So if you want to jump in, do it and I'll add you in the stream. If not, no worries. Don't worry about it. Um, and then they have the world data. So the world data, it uses the UWP system, just like Traveler does. So you have the universal world profile, which is very fitting for this kind of alien universe, right? Um, Uh-oh, your voice is all crapped out. Yeah, I hear you. Yep, I hear you. Um, Starship combat, I did briefly go through this. So this has been pretty heavily retooled for the I guess the less high tech era in which it resides, as far as the difference in the universes. So, you don't have all kinds of lasers and different things like that. It's more along the lines of guns, and it's almost like the Expanse, right? So, and it modifies the combat system to work accordingly in that kind of environment. Um, Now, the one thing I wanted to kind of really highlight here is what originally got me into it is this. It's Hostile Solo, and the it's this is a full rule book. You can see down here it's a 230 page count. So I mean it is a full separate rule book for doing nothing but running solo game of this. But the thing that drew me in that I was really excited about was uh, that you don't just play a single character in this. So you generate a full crew for whatever type of mission that you want to go on. And just like the full game, you can do a shipping campaign, exploration, colony survival, marines, mining, corporate troubleshoot, all those kind of things. But you create a full crew, and it's less granularity. You don't go through the life path system. You essentially just set up your character and your the different crewman characters, and so it tells you the different crew types there for the different campaigns. But here's what I was going to show you is you select your career, and then there's a table here where you look at your career and you have several skills, and then you spend like 7 skill points to set up each one of the crew members. You'll get a bonus skill, and then the key thing here is you do a psych evaluation, which tells you a little bit about what the quirks are for your crewmen. Uh, Now, when you create this crew, you don't really play as one of them. You're kind of playing as the crew as a whole. And the cool thing about this is it's got a section in here for task resolution, and you can use the standard Traveler style or Cepheus engine, however, that you want to use for this as far as the 2d6 resolution. But you can also just do complete scene resolutions, and it gives you a system for that. You come up with a plan to resolve an entire scene where several members of the crew will work on a project, like trying to restore battle damage or something like that. And then you make essentially a short series of rolls to resolve the whole scene at one time. And then you have a potential consequences that can happen depending on the danger level of what it is. And there's a yes no question thing here, but then you get into the building plot section, and this is kind of what was interesting here, because you have uh, character interactions. Here they are. So when you're playing, the first time that two of the members of your crew work together on a project, you roll for this relationship here. So, and you can see stuff like they're actually good friends, or it's a married couple, or they are friendship through some kind of guilt. So these are just kind of ways to give you a way to come up with as a solo player. It'll give you a key to work on and say, hey, okay, these two people that are working together, they're openly jealous of each other, or the one of them is jealous of the other, maybe because they're way better at certain things, or maybe they're jealous because they have a relationship with another crew member that they're sweet on. There's a lot of, hey, War Grimes, welcome in. uh so yeah, the first time that two characters in your crew work together, you roll the relationship, and then you also have a reaction table. So these are things that occur like whenever you're in a stressful situation. You can roll to see if there is some kind of negative reaction, and then they can do things like lose their temper and panic and different things like that. um, and then if there's a confrontation between two crew members, they give mechanics for going through that too. And then they have a set of inspiration tables to come up with different descriptors for, if you're in a certain situation. So like if you're dealing with some kind of installation like a space station, you roll and you have some kind of faction there. Like if you roll a 43, you have some kind of faction interaction. So, man, I rhymed. Look at that. So really what I'm getting at here is they have a whole system for managing the interactions of your crew members, and that's where the tension is set up in the game. Is you essentially you create a storyline for each one of these different interactions, and they can come into play as you're going through your missions. So let's say that your medical officer has a real beef with the captain because let's say that they didn't spend enough money to get them the gear that they needed, so they're a little bit miffed about that. Well, you could roll up a situation where those two are working together and they blow up into an argument, and it affects the mission at hand. Maybe it causes them to fail to a check or something like that. Right? Hey, John from Maine, welcome in. Nice to have you. Yeah, Mark, it is a nice way to flesh out the NPCs. And that's the big thing here is you're playing the crew in total. So really the role play that happens is the interactions between your crew members as they go through this mission. Now, the the uh, the solo rules, they truncate a lot of the main rules that I showed you from the core rulebook. But the cool thing about the solo system is you can drag and drop rules from the main book, the the hostile rule set here for the one that's the most detailed for group play, you can drag and drop any of those rules in and slot them into your solo campaign, depending on how much detail and crunch you want in any given area. So let's say that you really like starship combat. Well, if you don't want to use the truncated starship combat rules in the solo version of the rule book, you can just bring the full rules out of the core book into your solo game flawlessly, because all your skill system checks work the same. You have same skill list for your characters and everything like that. So the same thing goes for uh, all right, my daughter just printed something right while I'm on stream. Sorry about the noise if you hear. Uh, where was I? Okay. So yeah, you can also do the same thing with characters. So if you don't like the kind of limited way that characters are created, the solo rules, uh, then you can go into the main full rule book and you can generate each one of your crew members through the life path system if you want to, and give them full character stats and everything as if you were playing a group game. So and that applies to everything. So, and then like if you go as a test, what I did is I did the shipping campaign just to kind of make a crew and start out. And so what happened here is whenever I did that, you have a system here for generating the missions, and you have a process that you can go through um, to yeah, here's the checklist. So you roll for the mission, you select the destination star system, you select a character as your primary focus, and then you roll a spotlight scene for the character as a pre-mission event or situation. So the spotlight rules are cool because it gives you, it's like a little movie scene with one of your characters, and it doesn't have to be long, but it'll tell you a little bit about the character and maybe tie into to future storyline or plot. So you assemble the crew, plan the flight and the mission, and then you roll through the encounter, so, a starport encounter, and so on and so forth. There's a whole list here, as you can see, of things that you can do, and then um, you can go through and run missions through this system. Now, like I said, there is that expansion book for the full rule system uh, called Crew Expendable, and it is a very detailed mission generation for haulage missions like the shipping campaign. So you can drag and drop that whole rule set into here and really beef out the what you're doing from a solo point of view. And then also, it has if you like the horror elements of it and you want to do something like that, there's a section here for the looming crisis. So what you do is you have a clock running in the background, and ever so often you will tick that clock as you play through missions and stuff. And at some point, you'll trigger that, and whatever the crisis is will start taking place during your mission, right? And that's what they call the drama points here. And there's several things here like hostile life forms, crazed crewmen, uh, arrival group, computer malfunctions, like HAL 9000, reality bending horrors, natural or technical catastrophes. So there's a number of different things that they can introduce into the game and really kind of spice it up and give you that extra wow factor while you're playing. So uh, Ward says, does Traveler, if including spin-offs like Hostel, actually have more material for it than GURPS? Yeah, I would say so, especially if you go back through the early years of travel. I mean, even just Mongoose Traveler Second Edition has an absolute ton of material for it. But if you go into the earlier versions of Traveler, I mean, it's just nearly infinite. So yeah, I would definitely say it's probably more prolific than GURPS. So anyway, so yeah, that's Hostile Solo, and I'm kind of looking forward to a little playthrough of this and see how it goes. I've created my crew. I've got my ship set up and everything, and that's the cool thing about it is each one of the different mission type or the different campaign types. The author of the book includes a whole write up for a ship type that is specific for that campaign. Like, so for instance, there's what they call a colony freighter for the shipping campaign, and it gives all the deck plans and the locations and the stats of the ship and everything like that, so that whenever you're playing, you can actually plot out what happens on the ship as you're going along. So uh, you know, I can't believe I haven't run into this before now. I mean, this is, if you like this kind of thing, I would certainly take a look at it. Again, it's by Zozer Games, Zozer, and you can find it on Drive Through RPG. They also have their own website too. But and if you don't like just PDFs, if you want physical, they have that as an option too. Mark says, Ward, watch for Humble Bundle deals on many of the Traveler Prior era materials. Lots of stuff for cheap. Yeah, yeah, exactly. Ward says, I like rules for speed running scenarios. I want to try using stuff like that for simulating rival adventuring parties. That's an interesting concept. Yeah. So you can use, if I understand what you're going at, I think what you mean is uh, you kind of want to simulate a rival party that's running concurrently with the core main party. And so you want to use some kind of rules light procedural system to see what happens to them in the background. If that's what you're saying, that's pretty cool. I think it is. So okay, so anyway, that's Hostile and Hostile Solo. I encourage you to check it out. Even if you don't pick it up, go take a look at it. It may be of interest to you. So uh, all right, let me stop sharing. And so I need to get Talespire set up over here in the background. So I am going to work on that while I chat at you. It shouldn't take me but just a minute. So let me get that fired up. You guys are going to like this, I think. So again, Talespire is something that's available on Steam for PC. Uh, I think I think it's $25 for the GM license of it, if I'm not mistaken. I've had it for a long time, and they've improved it a ton since I first started using this. So, hey Jim, welcome in. Okay, almost there, guys. All right, here we go. Here we go. Okay, so again, a little brief intro here. So this is Talespire. I have been using this for, uh, turn down the volume a little bit. I've been using this myself, just privately to run some of the solo stuff that I've been doing before, specifically with 5 parsecs from home and a couple of other things. It's been extremely useful for that. But there is so much opportunity to use here for in person, for not just solo, but in person gaming, online gaming, and everything else. So I'm not going to chatter on about it too much. I'm just going to show you because it's the best way to do it. So all right, I have created a demo here, a set of boards for the demo, and first of all, you as the GM will be running this on your system, and then you can then invite other people into your game, right, as players, and you can control their access to it like you would with a VTT. So uh, what you end up doing in the way this works from a price point is uh, you, the GM, you get your system for your original purchase fee of the software, and then you can purchase additional seats, and those seats cost $15. But they're forever, and it doesn't matter. They're not tied to any sort of player. So essentially, it's like you're buying really chairs at your table that anybody can then come in and use. So if you purchase 4 seats, then you can have 4 people in your game, and then if you later run another game, you can still use those same seats. Okay, so let's see. I've got demo selected. We'll hit play. All right. Okay, so let me zoom out here a little bit and raise my perspective so that you can see the full board. Okay, so first of all, the first thing that I'll tell you is that this is an isometric, it will not just isometric, this is a fully 3D battlefield, okay? And you can create this completely yourself. There's a whole community content section for people that have done stuff. Everything that you'll see tonight is something that another community member has created and I have imported into the game. Okay, I've made my own stuff, but I'm not really that great at it yet. But I haven't really. There's so much community stuff out there, I almost don't need to. But anyway, yeah, that's kind of what you're looking at. So just to give you a little navigation here, you have over here on the right, it is a slider that controls what's visible. So as I bring the level down, it will. Oh, so there you can see the edge of the board there, and you've got a little layer of dirt, and then the top level here. So uh, this is the view controller. So you can zoom in using this view controller and change the level of what you're viewing. And I'll show you more what that means. But there's a couple of ways to navigate this. You can use the WASD keys, which is what I'm doing here, and you can also pair it with you can pan with the right mouse button, or you can use your middle mouse button and change your view altogether like that. All right. And then you can move the O slider on the right over here and change your vertical. So that way you can get down almost at the miniature's eyes level here. And I can zoom with the mouse wheel. So you can get all the way down here. You can get all the way to the miniature's level. Or you can come back out like that, do whatever, and do pretty much whatever you want. So there's 2 modes here. We're in the play mode right now. I hit B and it takes you into the building mode. And in the building mode, you can select and move tiles. Like, so for instance, if I wanted to come over here and I can pull this tile out, move it to the side, pop it back in if I want, and it kind of snaps back into place. I can right click. There we go. So if you double click, you can create more of those. And so I'm just dropping more as I go. But that's kind of the build mode. And then if you come down and open your library, you can see down here where these are all the tiles that you can have. And there's an absolute ton of different styles, and I'm just scrolling with my mouse wheel through some of them. But you can come over here, and so let's look at, so we're in the medieval fantasy section. So let's look at the castles. So there's tiles for castles, uh, caverns. So you got the more cavern looking stuff. And so you can just take and drop those. I can drag it right out of there and click on it. And there it is. And you can see at the bottom of the screen, there is your shortcuts there of how you can rotate your tiles. So if I hit the Alt button and left click, I can change the rotation of the tile just like that. And so I dropped it in place. And then let's say I want a little L corner here. I can do the same thing. Come over here, drop it in place. You can get them, you can have it with a base on it or with a base off. Work says, can an AI generate a homestead like that on the fly? No, it can't. That would be kind of cool, but no. Talespire fills my RAM with existential dread. Yeah, yeah. I would, once you're done seeing this, you're going to feel some existential dread. So, uh, yes, there's all kinds of stuff. So you got desert villages here. There's a ton of different tile sets that you can select. And then that's the tiles. Then over here, you hit the little hammer button, and then here are the objects. So, like, here's a tent. So I can come over here and boom, pop a tent down, or a campfire, boom, just like that. It's amazing. I can really quickly set up a scene like this in no time. So what I've done with my games is I've created several just generic scenes, like a road scene or something like that, and then I save those, and then I'll come in there and just add details as necessary depending on what the scenario is that I'm playing. Uh, so there's everything. I mean, you can even go down so far as food and drink. So let's say you're at the campfire and in your backpack is a wheel of cheese. Well, there it is. There's your wheel of cheese. And then you went out and picked some berries in the forest. There you go. There's a basket of berries. It's amazing, really. So uh, they have a medieval fantasy set. They have a cyberpunk and sci-fi set. So that's in the cyberpunk is close enough to modern that if you run in a modern game, it'll work for that, right? Then on top of that, there's a miniature section. So there are some stuff in here that is like, let's just look at gnomes. So you can see there's some gnomes there that you can pick and so forth. But again, this is just the stuff that's in the box from Talespire as it comes. Then there's a whole section for community content, and that's what this little tab is right here. The little world tab is for community content. And then there's the repository. You can just do a search here for what you're looking for. Like what I did is for this demo, this entire village scene is what they call a slab that I dropped in place. And I'll show you how I did that. So I come over here and select slabs, and then I just put in farm. And see, there is all kinds. See, there's the farm right there. That's what I use. So I just clicked that, and then just with one click, just plopped it right in place here. And it was as simple as that. So let me get out of build mode. And these are two miniatures that I pulled right out of the community content repository. Okay, so this lady here, and you'll notice as I pick her up and move her around, she changes the facing depending on which way that I'm going with her, right? And you just drop it and she falls down. You'll notice that there's a ruler. So right now I have it set up to where it will not snap to the grid. And so what it does is it measures the distance there. So there's 2.8 inches, and you can set the units that you use per the map. So I set mine up like a miniature war game. So where each tile, so like one of these four tiles like you see here, it's like a 2x2. So you can see there that's 2 inches. So in a war game, I'm moving 2 inches because that's the way a lot of the movement is measured. You can change that to feet. So if you wanted to, you come over here to your board, to the campaign and board settings. You can come over here to the world units and change the unit name to tile size. You can change it to feet. So let's say that you change that to feet and then change that to 5. So let's just try that. Feet. And each tile is 5 foot. Now you can see that she's moving 12 feet, 15, 17. It's really easy to change the scale, right? And then if you want to, if you need the grid, you can hit tab and it gives you the GM overview and it shows like a little overlay of this. Warg says, suddenly I'm overcome with the urge to run a Necromunda campaign. Just wait, Warg. I'm about to show you here in a little bit the sci-fi stuff. Okay, so hold your horses. You're going to love it. Okay, so, and we're just barely getting started here on what's available. So I've showed you movement, and the cool thing is it'll just stack on top of stuff. So if you have terrain that you're, let's say that you climbed up on the house here, I can drag her on top of the house. Oops. Maybe. Let's change her height. Let's see. I'll hit control and change her elevation. There we go. Boom. Now she's on top of the house. And then if I drag her over the ground, she'll just fall onto the ground, right? So you can change your miniature's elevation. You can hit Alt, and I can just, without moving her, I can just change her facing. Then here's the next cool thing. We've got interiors. So if I drag her over here under the house porch, boom, the roof comes off. Look at that. Now I've got a building here complete with an interior set up. And look, if I click on the door, I can open it. I can close it. It's amazing. Yep. I can move her inside through the doorway if I want. So if I hit open, then I move her through the doorway to the inside and then back out again. And as I pulled her out of the porch, the roof popped back in place. Ain't that cool? And so you can even get down, like I said, you can jump down to miniature's eye level and you can look through the door. Now, I'm about to blow your mind, and I can't show you this directly because I don't have a player logged in. But if the player is assigned a miniature and you choose to have player vision turned on, then they can only see from their miniature's point of view. So anything that's behind this building will be shaded out, right? So it takes the walls into account and everything. So anything that their miniature can't see, then their map for them is grayed out as well. Work says, does Talespire do more vertically active 3D maps? X-Wing jailbroken from the 2D. Yeah, you can do 3D. Like I said, like I showed you just then with putting the miniature on the roof, you can do that. So you can have fully vertical terrain and be able to handle that. And you can turn off. So to talk about what you were saying with X-Wing, so let me show you how to do that. So if you come onto the miniature and right click, you get a radial menu, right? And well, the thing you can do is you can hit enable flying. Okay. And what that does, you can see that she went into a hover there, which is pretty cool effect. But what it will do is you can change your miniature's elevation with the control key and she won't fall down. Right. So she's hovering in the air up there right now. Okay. So I just click that and click disable flying. She falls back down to the ground. Amazing, right? So let's look at the rest of the radial menu. So there's morphs here. Sometimes when people create miniatures and assets for the game, they'll have different morphs. So like they could have like a werewolf version of this character, and they can set that up in the system. So you click the morph and she morphs into the werewolf version of herself, which is pretty cool. I couldn't find one off the fly, but it'll do that. And then you can kill kill the character through here. Um, now, the GM tool. Let me bring on Mr. Mordor Troll. Here he is. Okay, so here's how so whenever you bring him as an asset into the game, he's the same size as these guys, right? But you can resize them. So you come over here to the GM tools, and I can change his base color. I can change his sight range. I can then set his size. So you can see here, you can change his tile size. So let's make him a really enormous troll, a 3x3. There you go, just like that. And suddenly you have a really big troll. Notice that when you made him big, he thunders the ground when he falls. That's pretty cool. And then let's see here. Then, so you change his size. We'll change him back down to a 2x2. Then they've got even bigger here, right? 14, 12x12, all that kind of stuff. So you can change the size and it matches with the tiles. Warg says, yes, I have a new goal for my gaming bucket list. Yeah, I knew you're gonna like it. I knew you're gonna like it. Okay, the rest of the radial menu. So you can hide it. So you click the hide, it'll hide it from your players. So click hide, boom, she disappears. So you can't see her. So you use the GM overlay like I did before. And so now you see your hidden character. So you can reveal them again. Boom, just like that. Then you have enable torch. I'll show you that a little bit later in the dungeon, but you can turn a torch on. Then you have statuses. So you can change the status. You can knock down your character, boom, she's been knocked down on her back. Great for wargaming stuff. Then you can do it. There's emotes you can set up. There's attacks. So you can do like magic missile. So boom, he was the active character, did a magic missile at her. So I'll just make her the active one, and then oh, she didn't have that option, only he did. Not sure why that is. Then there's stats here. So you can set up custom stats for your character, and you do that over here on the board and campaign settings. So you can come over here and you can rename these to whatever the stats that you want. And then that way, whenever you check your character stats, then it'll reflect the name that you put in the system. And then they have a hit points here too that you can change. So boom, you can use that. Like you can use a little dragger. So now they're at 7 hit points. Let's see what else. Okay, now I showed you the characters and what you can do with the miniatures. Then you have rulers. So you come over here to the bottom right, and you can do cones. There's a 3D cone. There's 57 feet of cone. And then you can change the angle of the cone. You can make a 45. You can go down to a 30-degree cone, like a flamer, whatever you want to do. So they have regular rulers. They have spherical. They've got that you can do spheres. Wargrime says Organzo Wizard Tower alternate physics scenarios. Yeah, that'd be interesting. So yeah, you've got rulers. You've got templates that you can look at. You can do all kinds of crazy things with that. It's even got a dice roller here, as you can see. So you can roll the dice directly on the table. It shows I rolled a 3. I rolled a 4. Remove the dice. So you can do, you want to roll 2d6, you just click it twice. drag it out, roll your dice. Look, I rolled a 12. Hooray for me. So, yep, you've got dice, you've got rulers, you have miniatures. You can do grids on here if you want to see the grids in more detail. You can do that. Uh, there is a lot that you can do with it. And so let's see what else before I switch to the different scene. Anything? I think I covered all of that. So I covered the radial menu. I covered the rulers. Uh, oh, there's a compass down here too. I don't know if you can see it very well in the bottom left. Uh, you can enable or disable that if you want to. Again, if you don't like freeform movement, you can enable snap to grid in the settings, and that way they will stay in a square grid if you want. They do not have hexagons, they only have squares, but that's the only limitation I've seen there. So yeah, here's another elevation thing here. So you're talking about elevation. So you can set up vertical terrain like this. Like boom, there's Mr. Troll on top of the hill, right? And there you go. So, and then there's your miniature control on the top left here. Okay, now before I jump over to another screen, let me show you atmospherics. Okay, so we have audio here. We can do ambient. So let's do the farm. We're at the farm. So let's turn on the farm. And I'll turn up the ambient. And there we go. There we go. So you can hear the chickens and the cows going off. All that kind of stuff is ambience. I'll turn that down a little bit. Music. So let's do Ballador. I don't know what that is. So there we go. We got some music going. So you got music, you got ambient sounds, and there's a big list for those. So you saw the ambience there. There's city, caverns, graveyards, all kinds of stuff. Okay, Warg says, how does Mr. Troll handle uneven terrain under it? Well, let's see. Let's say that he climbed this tree. There you go. So you've got a pointed tree, he's sitting directly on top of it, just like that. So same thing here. If you put him on the edge of this rock, I'll zoom in a little bit. You can see that he's kind of sitting on that. So his base is clipping, right? Or it's not clipping is what it's doing. So since it goes by the edge of the base. So if the edge of the base is on a piece of terrain, you can see as I moved it off there, he fell off, right? And then now he's on. So yeah, it essentially goes by the base, looks like. Okay, I've had enough of the music. All right, now, besides audio, we can change our light levels. So this right hand controls the direction of the sun, and this one changes the time of day. So here is straight up noon. So you can see the shadows is straight up there, and then let's move it to there. There's dusk, okay? And then you can change the direction of the sun. If you didn't want the sun to go down in the west, you can change it or whatever. But look at that. Now, see, there's lighting in the game too. So some of the objects that you bring in generate light, just like this does. And remember, let's bring the farmer's wife over here in the shadow. Let's say she's carrying her torch. We have enabled her torch. Now she casts light like a torch. Isn't that amazing? Yep, that's amazing. Okay, so let's bring it back to daytime. Mid-morning. There we go. Kind of where we were. Then you can do things like fog. So as you scroll out higher, you can see that you can fog things up a little bit at the higher levels, as you go up, or you can make things clearer, less fog. You can also change the light exposure. You can kind of, it's like the gamma, right? Then you can do post effects, which is cool. So let's say that we wanted to do a frozen landscape. Look at that filter. Yeah, it's like an ice filter. And then you can change the intensity of it. Okay. You can go back to normal here, or you can go full on, right? So you can change the post effect and the intensity of it, and then set it back to normal. So yeah, there's atmospherics, and it's amazing. You can create some really cool effects here. Okay. Now let's switch over. Let's go sci-fi. So you can, within a campaign, you can set up several boards, which is what I've done. I did the village board right here. And then now we're going to do the space board. Okay. So we'll hit go to board. Wait for it to finish loading. And there we go. So we've got like a little sci-fi marketplace, right? So you've got things playing on the TVs, you've got lights, I've got characters in here. So I've got some characters loaded up. I've got a Adeptus Mechanicus and some kind of like futuristic warfighter in here. And outside, I've put the Mad Max car. So you can set your car up. So if you want vehicles in it, you can do that. And that's outside of the play area, but it doesn't really matter. And then, so you've got a full sci-fi board that you can do here, or modern. Ward, you're talking about Necromunda. Here it is. Perfect. You can set up a full 3D Necromunda off of this guy pretty easily. Now, the other thing, and you mentioned X-Wing, so this is cool. So this is a community resource battle cruiser that I found. So here you go. You can set him, and you can set up a space scene. In fact, I can go over here and let's see. We'll do. Where is what I was looking for? It was. Oh, here it is. Okay. So let's choose a board color. I saw it earlier. There's one that you can select that's space, and I can't remember where that's at. But anyway, you can make it look like it's a backdrop of stars. I wish I could find it. I would love to show you, but you can change it to where it's like a backdrop of stars. And so, like if you come over here to the battle cruiser and you enable the flying, then suddenly his base disappears, and there you go. So you've got your battle cruiser floating in space, and you can move them around and do whatever, right? So yes, X-Wing, Armada, Traveler games, anything like that that you want to, and boom, you've got it going on, right? Pretty cool, right? And then again, you can do all the atmospherics and stuff like that that we talked about before. Oh yeah, here it is. I think I know where it is. So you can change the default sky to space. So there we are. Now we're on a space backdrop. There you go. So now you got your battle cruiser in space. So you get the star field behind. Ward says overwhelmingly visually impressive. Yeah, I agree. I agree. It is, isn't it? So we'll go back to default sky. There we go. There we go. Okay. Now, last thing. Ward says maneuvering under or over other ships, maybe even those starfighters fighting, swarming around a cruiser. Yeah, exactly. So let's even take a look at that, right? So let's go with your theme here, Ward. Let's open the library. Let's go to let's do creatures. Let's do space. Let's pick a starfighter. Oh, they just did that as a token. It's a 2D token. We don't want that. We don't want that. Um, well, there's a Babylon 5 Star Fury. Let's see. Let's see if that works. Yeah, there we go. Okay. So let's do that. Now let's change him. Let's change his size. We'll do, there we go. So we made him half a tile size. We'll change him to enable flying. And then there we go. So now we've got our starfighters flying around the battle cruiser. So look, he's even in his shadow over there. Look at that. Yep, there he is. So if you're playing Armada, you can have your starfighter squadron, flying around your ships and everything. Pretty amazing. Pretty amazing. Yeah, wow is right. Okay. And it even has a little stand here too, which is pretty cool. So it shows you the relation, especially if you do the tab, you can see your square highlight here. So you can actually see a distance between the two, right? Yeah, the cruisers become terrain. And yep, they do. They do. All right, last board. Last board. You're going to like this one. Here's the dungeon. Boom, there we are. So here, if you want to run a dungeon, here we go. And it's even multi-level. So you see how I move it to the side, and you can see that the dungeon has more than one level because you got stairs here. And you can stack things on top. So if you wanted to have a whole dungeon level over one below it, you can do that in this, right? And the cool thing is you can create modular dungeons on this and save them as slabs and then bring them in. And I'll show you what that's like in a minute. But I wanted to show you water. So you can do water in this game. And you can see how in this is a sunken area of the dungeon, and you can see the water in here, right? See how it's pooled up there? Get a little wave motion a little bit. So let's pull our dungeon master in here. So there he is. See how he's mostly covered by the water? And whenever you're creating this dungeon, you can change the water level. So over here on the right is a thing for water. So I can move that like that. See how I raised the level of the water in the whole dungeon? You can do that. Pretty cool. So just like the other one I showed you, you can open the doors in here and close them. All that kind of thing. Let me put him back in the portrait room there. And then again, you can set view distances on your guy. So from the player's point of view, if they have dark vision, then you can set that up in here so that it can control what you can see, right? Now let's play with the lighting for the dungeon real quick because it's pretty cool how that works. So let's leave Mr. Dungeon Master here and let's make this dungeon dark, right? So we'll change it to darkness. So now we have our dungeon in the dark. Yeah, Mark, Dwarven Forge Digital. That's exactly what it is. So this is pretty dark, right? We may not want it really this dark. So what we can do is come over here and change the exposure. We can up that to like a 2. There. That's pretty good. That's pretty good. It gives you some good shadows, but it makes the light a little bit brighter. So now you have your torches on the wall. Now let's give the dungeon master a torch of his own. Boom. There you go. So now as you move him, see how the torch light follows him as he goes around the dungeon? Yeah, he lights up everything. Is that badass or what, guys? Yeah, it's amazing. So that's some ways that you can use this. Now let me change the light and make it bright again, and then I'm going to show you how you can bring in a different module. So let's change my exposure back to 1, change it back to default. All right, we're back in business. Okay, now let's we got a stair here. I don't know if I'm good enough yet to match it up here, but let's go. We've got the library open. Let's go to slabs and go to, let's just type in dungeon and let's see what we get here. Okay, so there's a number of modules in here in the dungeon that we can grab. So let's find something interesting. Here's a kind of generic room. Let's play with that. So there it is. Okay, so now I have this dungeon here. Let's rotate it so that the doorway faces the stair that we've got here. All right, then let's use control and we'll change the vertical nature of it. So let's do here. Hey, I did pretty good. Look at that. I got it right at the level of the stair. So there, I dragged and dropped a complete dungeon module right there where I needed to. All I did was use the Alt key to change the direction of it and use control to control the height. And boom, there we are. So now we have another dungeon room that we just dragged and dropped in place. And you can create, like I said before, you can pre-create these little rooms like this and save them as a slab, and you can kind of build your dungeon on the fly as you're playing if you want to. So dang it, there we go. So yeah, there it is, guys. I mean, that's Talespire. You've got dungeons, you've got sci-fi, you've got space battles, you've got open world wilderness stuff. Uh, and you can, so let's say that you've got one more thing. I'm just going to tell you that let's say that you pulled in this pre-made thing or whatever, right? Well, if you don't like it as built, all you got to do is come over here and hit B to go into build mode, and I can just select this guy and move it around. Oop, these are columns. Um, I don't remember how to do it, but you can select more than one thing and you can move them around. So let's say that this statue, we can just take this statue and move him around. We can change his facing. We can, we can put him on top of this column if we want to. We can, let's say we want another exit to this room, then we'll just come over here and we'll just take these off, right? We'll take these and delete them. Boom. Boom. Then you can just take these off. Boom, boom. And then I can go find another room that I want and just slap it right on the edge here where I've created this doorway. And then suddenly we can move on to a different area of the dungeon, just like that. So there you have it. Anything, so I'm going to kind of turn it over to you guys at this point. Is there anything that you want to see before I stop this demo? Because there's a ton of stuff here that I didn't cover, especially from the player's point of view. When you get a player in here and the difference from them being able to, from you being able to control what they see is pretty cool. And I wish that I could have shown that, but I couldn't really think of a good way to do it. So, but anyway, what else do you guys want to see? Anything? Nothing? Hope you liked it. I had a fun time showing you. I'll give you all just a minute. I know we got a little bit of delay since I put the DVR feature back in, so I'll give you guys time to say anything if you want to take a look at something in particular. But yeah, if you want me to look at some of the repositories to kind of see what's there from, a community content point of view, I can do that if you're looking for something in particular. But yeah, it's a pretty amazing system. You can do a lot with this. I've played with it. Yeah, the spell templates look pretty cool for battles. Yeah, agree, Mark. The templates work really well. So, especially if you're in the dungeon like this, like if you're, where's my guy? Here he is. Let's move him up here. And let's say we want to shoot something down the hallway here, right? So we can just I can hit hotkey M and let's do a line ruler, right? So I clicked on him and I can run the line all the way out, like if it's a lightning bolt, and click, and then I can even go around corners if I want. Boom, almost like pathing, like that. So you can see there, I did a ruler doing pathing uh, through an area, and it'll give you the total feet of the distance, which is pretty dang cool. Does this tool, Mark says, does this tool support pre-made modules from WotC, Paizo, Traveler, etc. that you can purchase? No, I have not seen any official modules. However, I will say this, and I'm glad you brought that up because I almost forgot. Uh, this supports Hero Forge. So there's a tab here for Hero Forge. So you can link your Hero Forge account directly into Talespire. And if you go into Hero Forge and create a digital character, something of your own making, you can make a character look however you want. You can then import them directly into Talespire and use them in your game. It's absolutely amazing. So yes, you can at least, while it does not have official content, you do have the ability to bring in something from Hero Forge, and I think it supports Titan Forge as well, not just Hero. I think you could, if you do Titan Forge, they do that as well. But yeah, that's a cool way to get custom characters in here if you're not, a lot of this community content that's in here is like people's, or 3D modelers or whatever and make this stuff. But if you're a newbie and like using the interface for Hero Forge, and you can use that to bring your characters in. It's a little pricey depending on what plan you have with Hero Forge, but that's up to you. uh So let's see. Anything else? Y'all are quiet. I'm surprised. I'm surprised. I figured you might have a few more questions. Want to see something else, but I think that kind of covers it. You can have as many boards in one campaign as you want. Uh, you bring your When you have players, you bring them into the campaign, and then they'll be like, for instance, it says you are here in this realm. So you as the DM can go away from where the players are to go to the village if you want, and kind of prep it and get it ready. And then whenever you're ready to bring the players in, then you can click a button and it'll bring them into the board that you have set up and ready. This is PC client. It is not web based. So that's the only downside is you do need a PC. I think it runs on Mac OS as well, but you do need a PC or Mac in order to run this guy because it has, there's so much 3D to it that you need the horsepower of a PC to run this. So there we are, guys. Yeah, so that's let me that's Talespire. Hope you got something out of that. Hope it sparked your interest. I'm not affiliated with those guys in any way, but I found it so cool that I wanted to share with you guys. So hopefully, if you like it and get into it, then let me know. If you have any experience with, if you're not on, if you're watching this later, and if you have experience with Talespire and you know of something really cool that I didn't highlight, then put it in the comments after the show's over because I would love to see it because I'm always looking for new stuff in here. And that's one other thing is there are lots of keyboard shortcuts that are, and you can set up your key mapping too. So you're not strictly limited to your mouse. You can use a lot of keyboard shortcuts to make things quicker. So that's it, guys. That's it for Talespire. I'll let me shut that down. And that's kind of the show for me tonight. I mentioned that I'm doing Oathhammer review. I've got it about halfway done. I haven't forgot about it. It's going to come out. I've just got a little bit more behind than I anticipated, but it is coming, and I would anticipate it pretty quickly. But hope you guys had a good time. I did, and hope you show up next time. And like I said, give me a like if you enjoyed what you saw here tonight. Give me a subscribe if you think this channel is things that you're interested in. And hopefully we'll see you guys again next time. Good night and have a fun weekend in gaming.